Counsel, ready for closing arguments?
Yes, Your Honor.
You may proceed.
Thank you. It's up to all of us to take responsibility and initiative in our lives. We can't just resign ourselves to fate, blaming the world around us. Today it has been the responsibility of my co-counsel, Jillian Dolan, and myself, Hunter Dickson, to prove to you that Captain Fitzpier is not responsible for the injuries Avery Mansion has sustained. A lot of people here today are admirable for the initiative and responsibility they demonstrate in their everyday lives. Lynn Pingree showed initiative in taking over the responsibility of managing Captain Kidd's Pier. She's loved that pier since she was a child, and when she saw the opportunity to make it better, she jumped on it. Her faithful employee, Rowan Clamp, has responsibly and faithfully worked there for the past 10 years. Dr. Seymour Bones and Dr. Darmo Pavlik have taken their own responsibility in presenting their findings to the court today and have shown initiative in even coming here. But there are two people in this room today who have refused to take responsibility for their actions, and those are the plaintiff, Avery Mansion, and their friend, Aidan Lovecraft. The plaintiff has falsely alleged that there was a failure to warn guests of dangers and proper procedure, that there was a lack of attentiveness or training for employees, that Avery has been seriously and permanently injured due to the herniation of her spine, and that nothing but her ride on the hurricane would cause those injuries. But we, the defense, have presented facts to you today instead of mere speculation, and these include the facts that Avery partook in risky behavior, jumping off the pier and hitting her hands, exhibiting no responsibility in her actions. She didn't read signs or listen to warnings in line. No, she flagrantly disrespected the rules by flipping through her phone, lying that she was looking at the rules and then getting called out for it on the stand. She waved her seatbelt about, once again, flagrantly disrespecting the rules in her own well-being. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because she left that ride the same way she entered, and that way is perfectly fine. Avery came here today pressured to do a lot of things by her friend Aidan Lovecraft. She was pressured by her friend to dive off the pier as something that we posit caused her injuries today. She was pressured by her friend to get on the hurricane. She was pressured by her friend to fill out an incident report. Nay, it was not her who filed the incident report. It was her friend himself. And that same friend pressured Avery Mansion to go and get a lawyer and sue Captain Kidd's Pier for all it was worth. On the other hand, the defense. Lynn Pingree has only ever done what's right. She fixed up the parts she came into possession of and was legally responsible every step of the way. Her employee, Rowan Clamp, took initiative, making signs weren't obscured for guests and checking in on them, ensuring they were safe and healthy. And through no fault of their own was the tape that is the damning evidence against the plaintiff lost. Dr. Seymour Bones, with their 15 years superior experience, concluded that the dive was the true cause of her injuries and that the ride wasn't to blame, that there was no herniation that caused permanent damage in her spine, but a perfectly fixable bulging disc. Fixable through physical therapy, which Avery Mansion declined and ended before her 3 months were over. Responsibility and initiative. Two critical qualities demonstrated by Lynn Pingree and her employees. Two of the women who spoke in front of you today stand apart as excellent examples of people who care about their jobs. They were invested in the park financially and emotionally. In sharp contrast, Mrs. Mansion and her friend showed a lack of initiative in paying attention to the warning signs plastered all around them, and then failing to get sufficient medical treatment for her injuries. Instead of taking responsibility, they're trying to shift the blame, first lying about a lack of insurance coverage, then trying to exploit the legal system to get my client to pay damages for an incident that was not their fault. In actuality, there is no conclusive evidence linking Captain Kidd's Pier to the injuries suffered by the plaintiff. We offer Ms. Mansion our utmost sympathy. However, we maintain that the injuries she sustained were not the result of careless behavior or negligence by my client or her employees. As you deliberate, we ask you to remember that there has to be a preponderance of evidence for the plaintiff to find Captain Kidd's Pier at fault, and that preponderance of evidence just hasn't been presented to you today. As you deliberate, we ask you to remember the facts of the case. Remember Avery and Aidan's irresponsible behavior that day. Remember the pier dive. Remember their actions on the ride itself. Remember the medical evidence against any sort of permanent injury. Remember initiative and responsibility. Remember the importance they hold. As you deliberate today, remember, thank you.